Sabra Johnson at City Classic Cars. I want to talk to you about restoration. How does this work? What is this journey? I've been restoring cars a long time. I'm one of the largest in the entire country, the number one in the Houston market. Have more volume than anyone, no close second. So what that gives me is an advantage in understanding the consumer perspective. And I find two things. One, on the consumer side, one of the areas we just don't understand, I'm in a body shop over here, one of the areas we don't understand is body. Body, the most experienced, the most educated, the most serious collectors. Body work will boggle your mind because body work is rooted in trust. If you're a builder out there, it's very difficult to help a consumer understand and appreciate body because to their eyes, nothing has changed. You know, I would probably say if there is a concern from a consumer, the concern starts with, but it looks the same. Well, it probably is. Now, here's the difference. When your car comes in, it looks one way. Within about 72 hours, it's torn down, not all the way, but it starts to be torn down. So it starts to look different. And then at some point, the chassis and the body are separated from each other. It starts to look different. Then the seats are torn apart. It starts to look different. Where your engine was an ugly mess, now it's starting to be torn down. Nothing is finished, but you can see the difference. So we tear down your car, and I'm talking about body today. If you want to learn something today, you want to be empowered, I believe this masterclass, this session on restoration, footnote, body. I think this will empower you. It will encourage you. It will give you the tools you need to really appreciate this process. So the car goes into metal work. We're going to take it all the way down to the white meat metal. We're going to treat it with a metal treatment. Once we do that, we're going to put it in epoxy primer. Once I put it in epoxy primer, then it's released to my fabrication team to start doing fabrication work. Here's the point. I'm not talking about fabrication today. Here's the point. You can start to see difference in fabrication. If you take a disc and you start prepping an ugly piece of metal, well, you can start seeing the difference. If you start cutting out some rust areas, you can start seeing the difference. And so even in the metal department, throughout the journey, you can really start to see and appreciate, okay, change is happening here. Something is beginning to take shape here. You know, maybe I haven't changed completely as an alcoholic. Let's say someone's going through that. But you don't go to the bar anymore. See, so we can start to see a change. We can start, your clothes look different. You iron your shirt. You're walking a little bit different. You smiling when you wake up. So we can start, we don't know if the change is real in here, but we can start to see some outside signs that something different is going on. The challenge we have when we get into body work, yes, when I first start body work, you will be able to see a visual change. Once I start putting this car in mud, you will no longer see the visual process. Now, let me teach you why that's happening. So, car's over there, it's had the metal work done. Once it's had the metal work done, I got a truck at the gate. I got a truck coming in. Okay, I see it out there. We'll get it in a moment. I'm going to finish your class. We'll get that truck next. Somebody over there better get it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put in epoxy primer. Again, before it comes to body. Once it comes to body, we're going to do high spots, low spot. Hammer and dolly, boy, it's like I'm playing the drum. I want to have this the most uniform metal as I can achieve. Now, this is old metal, so what's going to happen is it's not going to be as uniform as it could be. So there's a product on the market, it's called body filler. And what body filler does, it allows you to create uniformity if used properly. Now, in my restoration, I like to put a nice skim coat throughout my vehicle. So you're going to see body filler, you're going to see body filler, you're going to see body filler everywhere because I'm going to put a thin skim coat all over the car. Why? Because I want to create uniformity. Now, so my epoxy primer, and I do this for the consumer, my epoxy primer is going to be black because my 2K primer is going to be gray. And when I use that 3M body filler, it goes on yellow, but then it's going to ash out kind of white. So you can start to see the different hues in your eyes and you say, yeah, change is happening. Something going on, baby. Your clothes look a little different. I don't know if you changed all the way on the inside, but something is different. Well, the problem is once I start to put 2K primer all over this car, you won't be able to see the difference. And the reason is because a lot of times we can't even see the difference, but I can start to feel the difference, see? And so you'll see a lot of experience. If you ever been in a body shop, you see a lot of experienced body guys. What they'll do, they'll start rubbing the car. We'll start rubbing it, and when you rub it, you just kind of feel it, and you can feel when it's no longer uniform. And so a lot of experienced old school body guys, that's what they'll do. They'll just rub that car. They rub that thing. You know, they touch that car. I had a body guy one time, and there was another guy who was talking about a car. He said, boy, he gonna be nice. He gonna be nice. And the body man said, hey man, he got real serious. He said, hey man, this is not a he, it's a she. I've been rubbing on this car for 2 months. It is not a he, it's a she. So you're going to find that body men will rub the car, the old school experienced body men, so they can see what's going on. They find out if it's ready. You know, it's kind of like my wife likes to cook. You put that cake or brownie or something in the oven. You know, old school, you take a fork. I ain't saying she do this, but my mama did it when I was growing up. You take a fork and toothpick, what you do? You stick it in there. And if it comes out clean, what that mean? That mean it's done. So little small techniques like that, that's all this is, that hand there. But there's another technique we use, it's called guide coat. And so once we put guide coat on the car, there's 2 ways to do it. You can do what they call tiger stripe. You get old cheap dollar can of black paint, because all you're looking for is contrast. Tiger stripe the car, block the car out, and it's going to let you know kind of what's going on. You're really trying to deal with high spots, low spots. You're trying to create some uniformity within the car. But why is it that you can't appreciate it? The reason you can't appreciate it because to your human eye, it's going to look the same. That's why we got to rub it with our hand. That's why we have to use guide coat, which is a black agent, or it can be red, blue, any color, but it's a contrasting color. We normally use black. And black allows us to see the contrast between the high build gray 2K primer and the contrast between the black. And so that way we know what's there. Wherever that black is still left after you get to blocking it out, you know that's a concern area. And that's the area you have to repeat. Okay, now let me go back over this. So first thing we're going to do, when we do this, we're going to start with an 80 grit. We're going to start with an 80 grit. Now, we're going over every square inch of this vehicle. I'm going over this spot, and that spot, this spot, that spot, this spot, that spot, that spot. I'm not jumping around. It's every inch of this surface is going over, right? Inside of the door, outside of the door. All of that requires a tremendous amount of time. So that's 80. So now when I go 80, I'm going where? I'm going 180. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing. The only difference I'm going to do, before I go to, when I go from 80 to 180, I'm going to come back now, and I'm going to, this really the first time, I'm going to put my 2K primer on, my 2K high build primer. For your builders out there, when you have your epoxy primer, you don't have to have 2K primer. You can go right on top of that epoxy primer. Now, do not use etching, and do not mix etching with epoxy. They don't go together. When they come together, you're going to find a break there. Don't do that. I had to learn that a long time ago the hard way. But do not do that, epoxy primer. So I go right on there with the filler. Once I do that, now after 80, this is my first time doing 2K primer. So the car is going to really be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great. Then once I do that, then I'm going to block that out. I'm going to block it with a what? I'm going to block it with 180. So now that's every square inch again, going all over this car. Once I block it with 180, what I'm going to do now? I'm going to do the same. I'm going to repeat the same process. It's going to be 2K primer. It's going to be guide coat. It's going to be blocking. It's going to be 2K primer. You're going to just keep repeating that same process over and over and over again. You know, but it looks the same. That's how big-time restoration works. We repeat that same process. Kobe Bryant, what a great basketball player. LeBron James, what a great basketball player. What's the key to their success? Repetition. They do the same thing over and over and over again. Steph Curry, I can't believe he can hit that shot by. Man, he's been shooting a long time. It's repetition. Over and over and over again. So great body work, that's how it works. It's a repetitious process. It's not a process that you can see with your human eyes. It's going to be very, very important if you're a consumer out there. You got to find a builder you trust, number one. And number two, you want to get educated so that you know exactly what they are doing. So then once I do 180, I'm going from 180 to 320. And once I go to 320, I'm letting my body team, they're going to pretty much be finished. And then it's going to go into paint. Now, once it goes into paint, he's going to paint the car. No. Once it goes to the paint, guess what my painter's going to do? He's going to black it with 400. Now, that could be wet, that could be dry, but depending on how you want to do it. But he's going to black it with 400. So he's still not painting. No, he's still not painting. So it's gonna graduate. So there's another block in there that the painter gets in. So a lot of times I'll tell a first-time consumer, hey, you're in paint. Why my car's not painted? Well, he got to black it with 400. That's the first thing he's gonna do. All right, so he's gonna repeat the whole process again. Then what is he gonna black it with? Is he finished now? No. Then he's gonna black it with 800. Now that's a wet. He's gonna black it with 800. After he black it with 800, am I ready to go now? Am I ready to go? Then that process is gonna begin. But then we got to take it in the booth. We're going to put it in the booth, and then we start our actual booth process. Now, the actual coloring process is what I call it. The coloring process can take 2 weeks. The way we paint cars in pieces, all segments of it, it can take 2 weeks. But then after that, then you got the post-paint process. Well, I thought my car is painted. It's still not finished. It's been in paint a month. It's been in paint 3 weeks. It's been in paint 6 weeks. Well, he had to block it and get it ready. Then he had to put it in the booth and color everything. And then after that, it's still in body because he has to cut it and buff it. And that's a whole process within itself. Listen, on the high-end side of restoration, this is how we do it. Now, let me give you some numbers. Oh, I can't believe it costs that much. Let me give you some numbers. Body work on the high-end side of restoration, on the low end, it's probably a couple hundred hours. On the high end, it's probably 1,500 hours. Find out where you are. See? It's a whole different world to this. So when you see a concours restoration, you say, how in the world could that car be 9,000 hours, 10,000 hours? Well, they probably had 1,800 hours, 2,000 hours in metal work. Then they probably had 1,500, 2,000 hours in body work. So it's all relative. It's all on a scale. Now, what my team has to do, every car we do is not a concours car. But very few are daily drivers. So we have to find a creative balance in there. And most cars that we paint, I can see things before I paint. I can see things because my mind is trained to look at it from the most advanced standard. But I've learned to discipline myself and say, she ready. It's ready to go. When it's ready to go, you get painted. When it ain't ready to go, we get it ready for paint.